Have you ever stopped to ponder the nature of your own consciousness? What is it about your thoughts, emotions, and sensations that makes them distinctly yours? From the ancient Greek philosophers to modern-day neuroscientists, scholars have spent centuries trying to answer the complex questions surrounding consciousness. And yet, there remains a fundamental issue that continues to baffle even the brightest minds of our time: the mind-body problem. At the heart of this problem lies the question of how mental processes are related to physical brain processes. Is the mind simply a product of the brain, or is there more to it than that? Can our thoughts and emotions be reduced to nothing more than chemicals and electrical signals within the brain? Or is there an immaterial aspect to consciousness that defies physical explanation? But first, what exactly do we mean by the term consciousness? Simply put, consciousness is the awareness of one's own existence, surroundings, sensations, and thoughts. It's that little voice inside your head that's always chattering away, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the recognition of the shape and color of an apple. So, join us as we embark on a journey to unravel the mysteries of the mind-body problem and explore the nature of consciousness. We'll delve into the history of philosophy surrounding these concepts, examine the latest scientific research, and discuss the implications of our findings for our understanding of the human experience. Let's begin. Throughout history, philosophers have offered different perspectives on the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the body. These perspectives have led to two primary theories that have dominated the discussion on the mind-body problem: dualism and materialism. Let's start with dualism, a theory first popularized by philosopher René Descartes in the 17th century. Dualists suggest that the mind and body are two separate entities that interact with each other. According to this view, the mind is a non-physical substance that exists independently of the body and can survive even after the physical body has perished. For dualists, consciousness cannot be explained entirely in physical terms since it seems to be irreducible to any material process. Therefore, the mind must be seen as something separate from the body, interacting with the brain to produce our experience of consciousness. On the other hand, materialism suggests that all mental states, including consciousness, are solely a function of the physical state of the brain. Rather than being a separate entity, the mind emerges from the workings of the brain, and consciousness is merely an epiphenomenon, or what some call a byproduct of those processes. Many materialists believe that mental states can eventually be explained entirely in terms of neurological activity and that the dichotomy between the mind and body is arbitrary. Now, both dualism and materialism have their strengths and weaknesses. For dualism, some argue that it provides the only viable solution to the hard problem of consciousness, which is the problem of explaining how subjective experiences emerge from the physical activity of the brain. On the other hand, materialism has the advantage of being supported by empirical evidence, such as brain scans, that show the correlations between neural activity and mental states. But critics of dualism argue that it offers an inadequate account of the causal relationship between mind and body, while critics of materialism contend it reduces consciousness to a purely mechanical process, thereby ignoring entirely its subjective nature. So, which theory offers greater insight into the nature of consciousness and the mind-body problem? As the debate continues, scientists and philosophers continue to explore the intricacies of the brain and consciousness, seeking a more comprehensive understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. What is consciousness? That sense of being alive and aware, of thinking thoughts and experiencing feelings. It's something utterly central to our existence, yet so mysterious and elusive that even the greatest minds of our time have struggled to explain it. Philosophers, cognitive scientists, neuroscientists, and more have all grappled with understanding consciousness, but one particular aspect stands out: The hard problem of consciousness. The hard problem of consciousness refers to the question of how and why we have subjective experiences or qualia. It's the problem of explaining why some patterns of neural activity give rise to consciousness, while others do not. It's the mystery of why we experience the taste of chocolate, the color red, or the feeling of love. In contrast, there are what philosopher David Chalmers calls the easy problems of consciousness. These are matters of explaining specific cognitive functions or behaviors, such as how we recognize faces, control our attention, or make decisions. These may be difficult problems to solve, but they are still explainable in terms of brain functions. But the hard problem goes beyond these easy problems. It's about explaining how and why these brain functions give rise to our subjective experiences. So, how do philosophers and scientists attempt to solve the mystery of consciousness? Some argue for a materialistic explanation, in which consciousness is simply the result of the physical workings of the brain. Others postulate non-materialistic or dualistic theories, claiming that consciousness exists independent of the physical world and cannot be reduced to neural activity. But there are also theories that go beyond the traditional materialism-dualism debate. For example, some suggest that consciousness emerges from complex information processing in the brain, while others propose that it is a fundamental aspect of the universe itself. While we may not yet have a complete understanding of the hard problem of consciousness, our growing knowledge of the brain and the mind brings us closer to a solution. As we continue to explore this fascinating topic, we'll undoubtedly discover new insights into the nature of consciousness and how it shapes our experience of the world around us. Qualia are a central concept in the hard problem of consciousness. They refer to the subjective experiences or sensations that arise from perception, such as the taste of coffee or the feeling of warmth from the sun on your skin. Qualia are often described as ineffable, meaning they cannot be fully captured or explained through language alone. The hard problem of consciousness is particularly relevant to qualia because it aims to explain how physical processes in the brain give rise to these subjective experiences. Philosophers such as Thomas Nagel and David Chalmers argue that consciousness cannot be fully explained through the study of physical processes alone. Nagel famously asked, "What is it like to be a bat?" to illustrate the subjective nature of consciousness, which cannot be fully captured through objective scientific inquiry. Chalmers further expanded on this idea, proposing what he called the zombie argument. He imagines a hypothetical being that is physically identical to a conscious human but lacks subjective experience, or qualia. Chalmers argues that it is conceivable that such a being could exist, which suggests that consciousness cannot be explained solely through physical processes. Debates around the hard problem of consciousness continue to be a hot topic in philosophy and neuroscience. Some philosophers argue that the concept of qualia is a red herring, distracting from the core issues at play. Others propose alternative theories to explain the hard problem, such as panpsychism, which asserts that all matter has consciousness. Current research in the field of consciousness includes studies on the neural correlates of consciousness, exploring the brain processes that occur during conscious experiences. There is also research on anomalous experiences, such as hallucinations and lucid dreaming, which provide unique insights into the nature of consciousness. As scientists and philosophers continue to grapple with these complex questions, the concept of qualia remains vital to the hard problem of consciousness and our understanding of how subjective experiences arise from physical processes in the brain. The philosophy of consciousness has significant implications for artificial intelligence, or AI. As we develop more advanced AI technologies, it becomes increasingly important to consider questions about consciousness, subjective experience, and the nature of the self. One of the key questions in AI is whether machines can truly have consciousness or subjective experiences. Some argue that this is impossible, as machines lack the kind of biological structures and processes that underpin consciousness in humans and other animals. However, others suggest that it may be possible for machines to exhibit intelligent behavior that simulates consciousness, even if it is not real in the same sense as human consciousness. Understanding the philosophy of consciousness can also have benefits for individual personal growth and self-reflection. By reflecting on our own subjective experiences and questioning the nature of consciousness, we may become more aware of our own biases, tendencies, and underlying beliefs. This can lead to greater self-awareness, self-understanding, and a deeper appreciation for the complexity and mystery of consciousness. For example, the concept of qualia can be a useful tool for developing mindfulness and introspection. By paying close attention to our subjective experiences, we may become more aware of the specific qualities and nuances that make up our perception of the world. This can help us to become more grounded and centered in the present moment and to appreciate the richness and diversity of our own mental states. In addition to these personal benefits, understanding the philosophy of consciousness can also help us to design more nuanced and effective AI technologies. By considering the implications of consciousness for machine learning and artificial decision-making, we may be better equipped to develop AI systems that are safe, reliable, and ethical. For example, if we design a driverless car that is programmed to make moral decisions in the face of unexpected events, an understanding of the philosophy of consciousness may be essential. By considering the ethical implications of different decision-making models and the role of subjective experience in moral reasoning, we can develop AI systems that more closely align with our values and expectations.